All right, let's talk fame.
Fame.
Yeah, let's talk fame.
I'm glad we're talking fame because none of us have experience with that.
100%. So my question is, could you handle fame? Right? Do you believe that you can handle fame and all that comes with it? Because here's the thing: we as artists, we have this thing where, like we said in the last few episodes, right, where we're gonna get, where we thought we was gonna get it's good enough, Mahir. I promise you, the frame is good. We have this thing, right, where it's like everybody's gonna hear our stuff, a lot of people gonna love it, and then we're gonna make a lot of money. Some of us might have, women around, maybe, a few men or something like that, and then like some yachts, right? And then bam, right? But along with all of that comes this concept of fame, right?
Yeah.
And I say in the beginning of strength, one of the things I say is no man copes with fame, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody seems to want it, right? So I'm throwing it out to you guys. First of all, what does it mean to be famous? Do you want to be famous? And then, do you have the mental aptitude to handle the fame? Are you willing to be Kylie Jenner?
Right.
Whoever the hell else, Mike Tyson. I don't know.
I feel like fame is subjective. Like there's levels of fame. So I guess it kind of depends on like what you personally consider fame to be. Because again, there's like levels to it.
Right. So when I say fame, I'm talking about like the spotlight, that red hot light, right? Where you get to that point where everybody, you're a household name. You get to go to the Rock Nation brunch, right? I don't know. You get to hang out with Jay-Z and Beyonce and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. And there are people who, the Beatles thing where people are running down the street trying to rip your clothes off at the same time.
So in the wise words of Lil Nas X.
I
had to bring it in right away.
You went straight off the top with the Lil Nas X?
No. I'm cheating just in case we don't actually get it in. No, but actually, I kind of want to piggyback on what was just said. There genuinely are levels of it. You know what I mean? You kind of get like a taste, and you kind of keep building up. Like, remember when we first started playing in College Park, and we kind of started getting like a following? Like, that's like a small taste of fame. And like, I remember when you guys were talking about your trip to Cali. You guys played that show over there,
right?
And you guys kind of felt like had a little bit of that like rock
the life,
a little
bit. The life.
Yeah, the life, right.
That's for those kids, man. Yeah.
But I don't think, I think what you're talking about, like that ultra high level, I think like all the good comes way before the bad. You know what I mean? You get like this huge surge of all this good, and then all like the bad stuff kind of follows it. So I feel like at whatever levels we've hit, we've only really gotten the good parts of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if any of us are really going to be able to say like whether or not we're going to be able to handle it. But I do know if we do start getting up over there, like I want us to be like the gorillas, where we're just like anime characters.
So
nobody knows us.
So there was a time where I wanted us to have like masks or something like that, right?
Yeah,
so I could get around without any kind of like, with some level of anonymity.
Yeah.
Right. Because of exactly what we're talking about, right? The level is, and to kind of go off your point, I don't know. So we've experienced the good in the sense that, at least for me, in the sense that to the degree that we haven't been forced into something, right? So there have been times where something could have been worse, right? But because we're not on the kind of level where everybody's kind of pressuring us to do a particular thing, it didn't go that bad. You see what I'm saying?
Not quite.
So like Ebad and I got a story of where you know, we came off the set we did a show, and it wasn't even a show. It was like we were just testing out as long as the police don't get me in Hyattsville, right?
Yeah.
And it was a trash performance. We hadn't even rehearsed it before. Mark didn't show up, right? So we was just winging it, right? Just to see how people would feel about the song, right? It's trash, at least for us. And there was a girl who came up after me hard after that one little song, right? And she was bad, right? She was top of the line bad. This sister was, God. But like, what I mean by that is like, if E ain't there to say to me, Dean, you made the right move, right? And and I have entourages now, right? That becomes an entirely different scenario, right? When I say, nah, I'm good, shorty, well, I didn't even say, nah, I'm good. I just ignored her. I just said that. I didn't even respond. Like, she was just like, you know, like, we could do whatever you want. And I was just like, I can't hear you no more. Like, I can't hear you no more. Right? But the bottom line is, if the scenarios change, let's say we get a manager, we get, people who begin to, be part of the team and kind of infiltrate the situation. Those situations become a little bit more testy than just Ebad being there and saying, yeah, Dean, you made the right move. You know what I mean?
That's fair. But I mean, I think, you can kind of still be protected from that, even if you have a high degree of fame. In fact, I think maybe sometimes you may be able to protect yourself a little bit more if you have fame, because then you have like systems in place to protect you from that.
It don't seem like it. I don't know what. Look, I'll just use Kevin Hart for example, right? Kevin Hart cheated. Well, they never actually explicitly say he cheated on his wife, but it's implied that he cheated on his wife. It really just came down to one bad move and him not having his team with him.
Yeah,
it really just came down to that, and it got exposed on such a high level just because. So they had a show in London or something like that, and it got canceled, right? And so he was like, "Yo, let's go to Vegas," and everybody was like, "Well, we can't right now. We going home." He went to Vegas by himself and bam, and that was it, right? Because he's Kevin Hart, right? So that's what I mean when I say like for us, those kind of situations are a little bit easier because it's like, the pressure's not on us like that. You know what I mean? So it comes off like it could have been a good situation, right? Or we've dealt with nothing but the good. But is it only good because we haven't been pressured yet?
Yeah.
Well, I think the only way to find out.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mahir.
No, go ahead, E.
I'll say the only way to find out is by getting famous. Like, I want to be LeBron James famous. Like, I don't ever want to go into a grocery store again without being recognized. Like,
oh, word?
Be able to walk on the street without people coming up and asking me for my autograph. Like, I want to live in that kind of world just to experience what that is like, because
I could totally see that.
I just want to sit on the Grammy, the Oscars. I want to get an invite, sit in the front row, and I want to play on the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game. That's my goal in life. Like, people ask, what do you want to do? Like, I'm always in the back of my mind is like, dude, I want to play in the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game and drop buckets on, Justin Bieber or Quavo or somebody, like, or Common, or J. Cole or anyone. Like I want to be in those circles, not to just, not to be like just like, I just want to be there because I want to be popular, famous, but like, I want that level of awareness of Leftist, of the band and of the music. And I want to know that, even when I'm like, if we are given this kind of a platform, like I can hold steady to my Muslim identity. I can hold steady to my culture and my faith and, and family and all these values that are important to me. Because one of the biggest people I have respect for is like Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't know if y'all know him, but the UFC fighter, like, it's so impressive to me that this guy is literally now known as one of the top UFC wrestlers.
Fights bears. Yeah.
Right.
Humble, like,
In the world, and he's every day holding true to his Muslim faith, to his beliefs, like, and never, you know, compromising on his morals and principles, and I have a lot of respect for that, you know, and I want to know that, you know, if we are given the test of fame, that we can still hold that, you know, that steady and strong. And
that was interesting the way you said that. Trust the faith.
I find it funny that E is always like so on brand for himself. You know what I mean? Like he's a caricature of his own self. He starts off with like the most Hollywood answer and brings it to like something that's so wholesome at the end. He's just so on brand.
That's definitely E. Hollywood E over there, bro.
Trying to be authentic, man. Just trying to be authentic, real. But like, yeah, man, I'm trying to be at the Grammys one day, dude. I want to roll up in a limo, all 5 of them. Like,
so that we're clear, you can be at the Grammys and not be famous. By the way, that's not hard, right?
No, that's the point of being at the Grammys, then.
You can win the Grammy and not be famous, right? So those are like the Grammys ain't that. I mean, like it ain't that hard to do. Now, mind you, there have been parts of me. I would love to be in the NBA celebrity game, right? Well, 100%. There are parts of me that want kind of what you want, but then there are parts of me who actually study the game and the history, and those parts of me are like, am I willing to give up what a lot of these people have to give up to do that? And I'm just not sure I'm willing to give that up.
So were you gonna go Mahir because I have a comment?
No, please go ahead. I'm gonna be like nonsense this whole time.
So for me, I wasn't raised Muslim. I became Muslim as a teenager. So prior to that, my upbringing was like in the entertainment industry. My father was like a well-known DJ, and just like my oldest memories are just of being around famous people all the time. Mm-hmm. So I've like been able to see firsthand like how it can destroy people's lives, but also how it can like enrich some people's lives as well. And I think that depends largely on the type of person that you are.
Right.
If you already have like defects in your character and you're already not a good person, like having this mass amount of money and like notoriety is just gonna like exacerbate that versus someone who's just like genuinely a good person, and you end up coming into this money and like, you know, whatever fame gives you access to, I feel like you can use that as a platform for good if, you know, if you're already that kind of individual. I think that's really relative to that. And then also for me, like, I would say I do want a certain level of fame, but at the same time, I feel like for me as a Muslim woman, like fame is kind of like, doesn't really go hand in hand with modesty. So I guess trying to figure out how that would work. Like, for instance, like let's say I was to get married, I feel like that might be a bit intimidating to like a Muslim brother. Like, oh, my wife's really famous, and like I go places and people recognize me, and you know, I don't know. I just feel like that would be a challenge, and it's already a challenge again, like as a Muslim woman. But again, I do feel like I want a certain level of fame just because I feel like there's enough famous people who aren't using their platforms for good. So for me, I feel like it's more so something that I would want to do for representation of like a Black Muslim woman, something that you can be celebrated anywhere, really. So that's just my 2 cents.
You know, actually, kind of like to dissect that idea of like that dichotomy of fame versus modesty, because I think us as men, we definitely don't have that perspective at all. Like, I mean, it's just something we never had to struggle with.
Never.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
It's something that I don't think I've ever thought about. And especially, and I think it's funny that you bring up like, say like, not just like fame and modesty in and of itself, but also like how it could affect like a spouse or something like that too.
Yeah. Making a significant other, like that definitely is a big component of it. Because now, you know, I'm starting to think about like what would it look like if you know, if I were to have a spouse one day and she was the one raking in, you know, millions of views on like her social media, or, you know, obtaining so many messages from men and guys who want her attention or who want her validation, or just, you know, just want to holler or something like that. Versus like it being the opposite, like, you know, if me, like I having a spouse and then, you know,
you don't think that's gonna happen to you too? And also I also love that he starts this sentence off with like, oh, if I get married someday. Okay. If I get married someday.
Oh,
Good God.
hey man.
Right, stop it, guy. Those DMs are popping right now. Shorties are all after this guy. Get out of here.
I'm just kidding. Oh, man.
So yeah, like so that's a big thing. Like that's a big thing in the industry. Divorce is a big thing in the industry.
Sure.
Right? In itself. You know, the jealousy that comes with being, you know, popular, or the stress, the strenuousness, if you will, of you know, of being famous. Are you guys?
You know something to that point? Like for me, I feel like because I have so much experience with that, like I feel like I could be with a man who's famous and not really be like overly jealous, or I feel like I would be able to handle like the pressure and everything that comes with something like that.
Well, let me kind of get your opinion more on like fame and modesty. Can you be famous and modest at the same time?
Yeah, we need to dig in this a little bit more.
I feel like yes, you can. The thing is, like, I don't really know. Okay, for instance, I feel like if I had a friend like who was like a hijabi supermodel, I could get a better idea of what that would look like. But I'm more so speaking from like the perspective of observing like Muslim men, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it's possible. Like you have some people who are more private about their lives. Like not every celebrity is posting on Instagram every day. And I don't know. I just feel like just depending on the type of Muslim woman that you are or man, like it's just up to your, you know, discretion to like, you know, filter out the influx of like inquiries and just like immodest things that will come your way on a daily and regular basis. Like you just have to be a super strong person, and I feel like that probably comes from having like a strong foundation within your faith. So I feel like if you don't have that, you'll easily be like pulled under the storm and the whatever comes with being famous.
Yeah,
That's a very good question, because when you said that, like when you first made your point about you know, modesty and fame, I think to me it was funny is because like you said, it's the fame will exacerbate that within the person. You know, if a person already carries himself with a certain level of modesty and haya, the fame will only exacerbate it, right? But if it's none at all, then it's, you know, it's not going to come anywhere, when the money and fame will only give them more notoriety, a platform to commit and behave a certain way. But, you know, it's funny because my immediate thought was like, yo, if I ever get famous, like all the things I'm going to do, it's like, there's no modesty in that. Like, I don't mean that like a messed up way, but like, you know, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to like, you know, want the spotlight. I'm going to want that attention. I'm going to want to make headlines and news. And of course, not for like bad reasons, but, you know, for being someone that people can look up to, for being someone who gives a voice to the voiceless, or, you know, who kind of like uses his fame to help people. You know what I mean? Like John Cena, like he's granted the most number of like Make-A-Wish wishes for like cancer.
Out of all people, you pick John Cena.
Well, but I'm saying, like this is not modest. You know what I mean? It's like going into the WWE ring, like always taking the shirt off, like fighting in public.
You know, and I feel like modesty is not just like covering your body or like wearing hijab.
Right.
Modesty is also being moderate in the things that you do. I feel like famous people literally, they have to uphold a certain like image of themselves. So that means flashing their money and their cars and their trips and their women and this and that. Like that's the opposite of modesty, you know? So I don't know how that would look for a Muslim, but it would be interesting to see. I mean, there are Muslims doing it already, but I feel like, I don't know, with this age of social media, it's just like really difficult.
And let me know if I'm if I'm not quite right with this, but like when I think of like a famous person and then say a modest Muslim, right? And you can think of like both males and females as examples, but who's that girl, the person who fences? Like she went to the Olympics.
Oh yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like she's like really famous, and she has a big influence on, like a big positive influence on a lot of people. So that's one person who I think of, that, you know, that's like probably the first person who comes to mind. But
that was a perfect example.
What's that?
No, I was saying I think that was a perfect example to use. Like, you don't see her posting anything like crazy.
Yeah.
She upholds her hijab. Like, I think that's
okay, guys. But I think we're conflating. We're it's a has not a musician. Let's be real about it. Like,
But she hangs with musicians. She's in those same circles. Like,
okay, hanging with musicians is different than being a musician. There's a thing that comes with a musician that's called, it's a phrase. We all know this phrase: sex, drugs, rock and roll. Right?
No,
that phrase doesn't exist in fencing.
that's just within the entertainment industry, period. Like, not just rappers, actors, athletes, they all kind of have that same aura around them.
Yeah, but it comes with specific, like, it don't come with fencing. It comes with specific things, and we're talking about our specific.
So you're telling me that male soccer players, famous ones around the UK, she's an athlete, even though she's Muslim, so she probably doesn't have people like approaching her because they're like, oh, she's wearing hijab, like I'm not just gonna go holler at her. But even with athletes, I feel like they face the same level of like, you know, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
So yeah, so athletes are included in that. I'm just saying that it's a part of the particular thing that we do. There is this shining light on, and if you want to talk about like how we were talking about whether or not music is allowed or whatnot, one of the reasons that people say music is haram is because of the debauchery that comes with being a musician, right? Let's be honest about it, right? That debauchery don't necessarily, like, it's not at the look. People have sex on stage. Like, people don't have sex in the middle of a soccer venue. Like, they ain't playing, they ain't kicking a ball and you know and beating some chicks at the same time. Like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, that happens in music.
So I think you bring up a good point in that, like, in the music industry, and maybe in like certain other industries too, like maybe even acting too, but like the sex appeal can definitely change your trajectory. You know what I mean? Like, you can have like great sex appeal and no talent and still make it pretty famous. Whereas like, I think in say like acting, maybe not so much. That actually, never mind. That's pretty much, you can actually have that as well too. But in say athletics, you definitely can't, you know, like you can't just have the sex appeal. And I'm trying to think of like other industries too, but I think especially in music, there's a huge influence of that. And so I mean, I think that's something that could kind of go against. I mean, not go against, but like could make it harder to be like modest too.
Yeah, and you also talking about like your athletes don't have the died at 27 rule, right? They don't have that.
What?
Right? The died at 27 rule. Jimi Hendrix. Is it Joni Morrison? Kurt Cobain. You know, like our lifespan dies out for whatever reason.
Except for the Rolling Stones, like, why are they still here?
You know what? And that's the craziest part, because they old as hell. Like, and they were never, and that's the crazy thing. They were never cute. So it's like, how did they?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
they like break every rule.
they break. I don't know. Maybe whiteness allows for that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's be real. I can't deny like sympathy for the devil and songs like that. I can't deny those kind of things, right? But when I see Mick Jagger on stage, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Like, yeah, he just looks old to me now. I mean, you know what? They've always been old though, haven't they?
Pretty much.
When they were young, they were old.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I mean. Like, that comes with kind of the territory of, you know, it definitely, if it comes with anything, it definitely comes with musicianship. So it's like, how do you keep, you know, your head on right?
I mean, I feel like that has a lot to do with the content, because literally in music, people are like calling others to action. So you won't go to like I don't even know who's a good example, but I mean, it has a lot to do with what they're actually saying. So I mean, if you're that type of musician and you're making that kind of music where it's about sex and drugs and money, it's like, that's the kind of crowd or target audience that you are making music for. That's the kind of environment that you're setting up. So it's like, if you're making music about positivity and you know, different things, then I don't feel like it's the same struggle. I don't know.
And I think that's like something that's not talked about enough within, especially Western music, and it's like mannerisms within music. Uh, um, Growing up, like within like the Afghan culture, it's, a lot of Afghan music is derived from Indian music and the Indian like history and music. So when these guys would find like an ustad or someone to practice vocals with, or you know, play the tabla with, or play the what's it called, or any instrument, right? They first had to seek blessings, right, from that from their teacher in order to even begin. They had to make an intention, inward intention, an outward intention that they're going to learn this instrument for this, and at the same time be cognizant of the marvel around it, of the divinity within that instrument. And you know, they wouldn't even go on to perform solos or perform by themselves without having their teacher's blessing, right? And I think that, and it's funny because like whenever I see one of my favorite tabla players like you know, perform, like Ustad Zakir Hussain, who's like one of my teachers, right? So it's crazy that in a way I'm connected with him because he's my teacher's teacher. And before this guy gets on the tabla, he makes dua, like he makes prayer every time before he gets on to, you know, for God to bless him, for God to bless his instrument, and to limit any mistakes, and to, you know, prohibit any shortcomings and things of that nature. And I feel like we don't even have anything like that within Western music. Like right now, it's just like, yo, I'm handsome. I think I can, you know, I have a good voice.
That's a really good point.
Or I'm gonna get women, or I'm gonna get this attention, or I'm gonna, you know, seek what I want. And I don't think intentions are necessarily good anymore as they were back in the day. And now the only reason I'm saying this is because as an Afghan, like I've played with a lot of Afghan other artists, and like it's honestly to me almost a little embarrassing and ashamed of how they act, right? A lot of how a lot of these Afghans act, and like you can tell that they're not in music for the love of it anymore. They're in music because they like the attention that it brings them. They like music because they like the money that it brings them, and the clout that comes with it, not necessarily like out of the true love and passion for it. And, you know, and you can see that in the way they dress. You see it in the way they interact with people, and the way they interact with people who are listening their songs. And it's just like sometimes it's gotten me to a point where it even turns me away from it, because I'm like, what's the use of this fame? What's the use of this money if you're just going to turn into like an immoral person, right? So that's why I wanted to make a quick segment on, like, you know, mannerism, respect when it comes to the music itself as well.
Yeah, and I love that idea of like of that, of you bringing in that culture around the music, because I think in at least the culture that like we are over here in the Western part of it, Western music, like the intention of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll is perfectly acceptable in music. Not only acceptable, but it's almost like expected, you know?
Yeah. It's also expected, which is a very big thing in hip hop. I don't know. I guess it's in most genres, but it's expected in hip hop. It's expected that that you're doing it to smash something, right? There's a competition there, right? And you have to destroy the competition, whatever that is, right? So it's like you get on stage, you don't get on stage just to, and I've done it before. I've done it a million times, right? I'm getting on stage and I'm like, whoever just came before us, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
like whoever, anybody who's before or after, it's a wrap. And I'm looking for, when it's done, for you to be like, damn, he smashed that. Like he killed that, right? I've had to make myself, I guess I want to say, like pull myself down from that a lot of times, right? Because you're in the middle of the stage and you like, I've been there before. I'm in the middle of it and I'm like, I'm killing this shit. Like nobody can tell me otherwise. But I'm like, but in the same token, you like, am I losing my intention then as I'm doing this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then it becomes, I got a question then. Do you become hypocritical then if you're like, you know, I'm smashing this, I'm killing this, and then somebody be like, and then afterwards somebody be like, hey, come hang out with me. You're like, no, that was never my intention. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you become hypocritical at that point? Because that's been me before, where I'm like, no, like I was here for the art, for the love of it, and you're just here to want something from me. And it's like, well, that's really what you know, when I got on stage, I was like, I'm gonna kill this joint. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. They sound kind of completely separate. I think you can do
I'm
both.
just wondering that you could do both. You could smash and still have good intention. So I mean, obviously you can. Obviously you can. But I'm talking about the idea of you being in it. Like your intentions start to shift, and you like, you know, whoever it is that's in front of me, I'm just gonna kill this nigga. Like, you know what I mean? Like, excuse my language. I'm just going, he's done.
Perfectly acceptable. In fact, I think that's like an appropriate response to getting on stage.
Yeah, I can't with you. Nah, yeah. You know, I've had that. And so, you know, you got to wonder about it. Like, is that still, like E is saying, does that keep your intention together? And then do you lose a piece of the, I don't know, the goodness in it because of it? You know, as you continue to seek all this kind of stuff. Mahir's like, I'm a ham, and that's the end of it. Like, I just want the attention, and that's the end of it.
No, I mean, I think we're kind of like conflating two different things. Like, if you come up there and you want to kill and you want to crush everybody on there, that's just you doing the best you can. And if your best is better than the next person's, then it's just better than the next person's.
No, that's not fair.
That's subjective, though. That's still always subjective.
That's not fair. That is not fair, because those are not the same thing, Mahir, and you know it. Those are not the same thing. Those are not the same thing, and you know it. There's a difference between I'm just doing the best I can, and it was better than everybody else, and I know who's on this bill tonight, and I'm coming to smash him. And you know that. You know it. Those are not the same thing. Those are not the same.
What?
No, I'm just saying, like, I was talking, like, I don't know, I just feel like that's always subjective, because you can feel like you did a great job and you smashed the person before you and after you, and your audience disagrees, like.
Oh, that's true, but I'm not talking about your audience, I'm talking about your intention.
So, like, go there in terms of, like, competing with other people?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with competing, but
I don't think there's anything.
Like art for the sake of art.
I don't think there's. So if it's art for the sake of art, how is it competing? So he's talking about art for the sake of the best of intentions, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about art for the sake of competing. How can those two be the same?
They can be. You can have both of those intentions. 100%.
So you think that what E's saying? So you think that what E's saying is essentially it could be considered the same thing, but he's saying that he doesn't feel like they could, or that he feels
Not
like people are. He feels like people are leaning more toward the other side because of it. And I don't disagree, because they don't have the intention in mind. Like there are times where we'll get on stage and we'll be more focused on the show than we will be on the Bismillah.
Okay, fair.
Right, and so you go through a whole show and you forgot to say the Bismillah, and there are times, and then that escalates to we go through a show and we miss Maghrib.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Or you go through a rehearsal and you miss Maghrib. Right.
Sure, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're like this show right here is the show, right? I gotta make sure that I smash this show. So you're sitting there and you're rehearsing, and Maghrib passed and Isha passed, and now you're praying them together on the side. You know what I mean? Because you missed that time because you were so focused on, smashing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a loss of focus rather than like. I think it's just a loss of focus.
But we're talking about loss of intention. What's the difference?
I feel like ultimately, it's gonna always go back to your why, like why you started doing this to begin with, and what your ultimate why is. There's this guy named Simon Sinek, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he was just talking about different companies, and he used like Apple as an example, and he's like, we don't just buy Apple's products, we buy into like why they make their products.
Right.
And understanding their story and their why makes us want to buy everything Apple makes, So I feel like we need to always go back to our why, and then also try to help other people to understand what our why is. And I feel like that'll always be like a way to check yourself, like, okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I want to be better than the next person, or because I feel like I genuinely have something great to offer the world,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
You out here talking about, you don't get to say that's just my opinion. It's a show about opinions. Like, it's expected that that's just your opinion. Like,
whatever.
How do you guys feel you guys would handle fame?
Good question.
We already know how E would.
He's Hollywood E. It's a wrap for him.
No, seriously, how do you guys feel you guys would handle it?
I would enjoy the perks.
Yeah. But so what are the perks though?
Free stuff. Exclusive access to things, places, but like I don't know.
But you don't get to have the perks without the works. If you know what I mean, like, if we want to drop bars in here, like, you don't get to have the perks without the works. Like, like for example, the baby, right? This guy is now famous, right? This guy can't go anywhere without somebody trying to fight him. He literally had to knock a dude out in the middle of social media. So the perks with the works. And he was in the middle of buying whatever he wanted, right? Because
the question is, what type of content is in his lyrics? Is he talking about that life and kind of like bringing that energy to himself, to where people feel like, oh, when they see him, they want to rob him, or it's on site and they want to fight him, etc. Like, what is the content of his lyrics? Is that what he talks about or not?
So Michael Jackson, right, is locked up in Russia because the U.S. government is worried about he's not locked up, but he's locked in Russia, in a hotel in Russia. This is how he creates Stranger in Moscow, because the government is the FBI is tracking him over his lyrics or something to that effect. Michael Jackson has some of the best intentional lyrics, Man in the Mirror, Smooth Criminal, right? The best intentional lyrics, but he's now in a place in a country that he's not used to. And I mean, he created a great song from it, Stranger in Moscow, but he's literally talking about himself. He's locked in a damn country because he can't get back to this country. That's what so Bob Marley is attacked, right? Because of his lyrics, right? Mm-hmm. John Lennon is attacked. Well, I mean, you could say essentially because of who he is, right?
It sounds like there are two contributing factors to like a negative response, right? One is your content, and then second is your response to that attention, right? So this is just on a personal kind of thing. I don't think our content as leftists is anything that would draw any type of, or really not that much negative attention. No, come on. It's a lot of things. Most people can get behind it.
That causes negative attention.
Fair. But then there's the second part.
Because controversy negative attention.
Fair. But then the second part is just as big, is your response. And now this is very individualistic, because if I'm getting a whole bunch of attention, it's going to dissipate very, very quickly, because it's just going to be me watching hours of videos on YouTube, and no one wants to see me doing that this whole time.
You'd be surprised, my G. But that's perks with works. Like, how do you sustain? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with getting stabbed up, being Bob Marley?
Not okay with any of that. That's why I want to go like full, anonymity with this.
My goal was always, not always, but my goal was to, one, make sure that we were big enough somewhere else that we could go home and no one would know us. Right? It's always been my thing, right? It's like I'm working this hard so I could disappear kind of thing, right? At some point. But I don't know. I don't know how I would handle fame. If I would be, I think if, at my age now, I would be very, I don't want to say paranoid, but I would constrict a lot of my movements. You know what I mean? I'd be very, very intentional in what I did and how I did it because I'm used to certain things and I ain't even there yet.
Sure.
Right? I'm not there yet. Right? Or whatever there is, right? I'm used to certain things in the way people talk to me and come up to me, and I kind of like the life that I have. You know what I mean?
What's that?
I think it's a little different for men. I feel like as a woman, I wouldn't feel so safe just having random people wanting to come up to me and like approach me. Like I feel like I would need to have like a certain level of security at all times. And
that's
I would want to be as elusive as possible. Like I don't want to be one of those people that you see me everywhere. I'm at every event. Like I want to show my face here and there so people know I'm still alive. But I wouldn't want to just be everywhere. Like I just don't feel like that's safe.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
For us to have a female perspective, because I'm just gonna be honest right now. Usually it's just like us three guys, talking about these things from like our perspective. But I didn't realize that, from our perspective, we don't have like a female one, and it's important to see a lot of these things from a female perspective. Especially because, like you said, there was an incident. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know exactly what singer, but she just had a show and she was done and she was doing like a meet and greet, and then a fan came up to her and just literally took a gun out and like blew her brains out right then and there.
Yeah, that's awful.
I forgot what it was, but it was just like so tragic and devastating. And it's like, because to me it just reminded me that with a lot of these cases and incidents, like it's always the women that get the brunt of the crazies or get the brunt of the negative attention and the stalking, the upset.
Selena.
Right?
And it's literally her own family or something like that. Somebody close to her or something like that.
I feel like there's challenges with each sex. I feel like with men, you guys have to deal with the women wanting to like rip your clothes off and just always getting these like advances and all that kind of thing. I mean, women.
We both had three totally different answers.
But I feel like even when you look like in the hip hop industry, rarely ever do you hear of rappers being threatened, like female rappers dying or getting shot or this or that. And it's like that's a thing that you see constantly with like male rappers. So I feel like there's a certain threat within like the male realm of just being like a musician and that kind of thing. Like you guys have a whole nother thing to deal with. And I feel like we as females don't have to deal with that per se, like the jealousy aspect of it, having to prove ourselves all the time to people and like mark our territory, so to speak. But we do have to deal with like the vulnerability of just like being women and like needing to have that like additional level of security. So
yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, so it's interesting that you bring it that maybe we do have different struggles, but would you agree that the struggle for women is significantly higher?
Possibly. I just feel like it depends on the woman. Like there's some women who might be a little bit more aggressive than others and people wouldn't necessarily like approach them. And I don't want to like compare this to like a specific Islamic example. It's not even Islamic, but like for instance, like certain neighborhoods where certain Muslims would be attacked by like people who saw them and just like, attack them. That wouldn't happen in certain Muslim neighborhoods because people know not to go there and that there would be some type of retaliation or those people are maybe less vulnerable. So I feel like these predators, they kind of know like, am I making sense or no?
No, you're making sense. But I think what you're kind of talking about also is maybe just like a physical violence, but I'm also kind of curious to hear maybe your thoughts and like experience on not just like physical violence, and just to also bring in like the modesty with it. Like say if you have like a famous person who's also really modest, I think they still have a huge degree of, say, like cyberbullying and things like that, things that aren't necessarily even physical, you know? And I think that like women may get that a lot more than men.
Yes. You know, I ain't no woman, but I'm almost certain that has to be the case.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask your opinion on it.
Yeah, I feel like also because like our dynamic as men and women, like men most of the time are like the pursuers in a way. So like a woman will have a guy approaching her more than like a woman kind of approaching a guy. I don't know. Times have changed though. Women have become more aggressive and like forward and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think the lines are blurred.
Trust me, I know.
My God.
I'm gonna tell that story one of these days, but
so annoying.
a couple of those stories.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting story.
Yeah, so perks and works.
Perks and works. Are we famous yet?
You can't have the Percocet without the work cassette.
Don't do that. Don't ever do that again.
You know, actually,
save that for future. Save that for future.
One thing that I wanted to mention, it's funny that we were talking about like fame and privacy, because Dean, like you were talking about like, you know, having enough fame to, you know, just being like famous somewhere else, and then like, you know, being kind of like anonymous when you come back. I feel like fame and privacy are on a bimodal distribution. So stick with me here, right?
That was the most, hold on, first of all, that was the most doctorate ass bimodal distribution. I don't even understand.
Here's why, right? So first, you have, if we have like fame and privacy, or like no privacy or whatever, right? Or like you know, first you're like, when you're like not so famous, you have a ton of privacy, right?
Right.
And then you get more and more famous, and then you lose your privacy. And then all of a sudden you're really famous and you can buy your own island. And now you have a lot of privacy again. That's like that's pinnacle. That's where you want to reach. Otherwise, you just want to be like no fame and all privacy.
Like Richard Branson.
Yes.
Like he was like CEO of Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records, Virgin all that stuff. I remember there was like a MTV Cribs when they did like his whole he's like, hello, welcome MTV Cribs, this is my island, and then he's like showing him his entire like house, and then he goes like, you know, in like his mansion on the island, and then like out of nowhere, like Mariah Carey's in the bathroom showering. He's like, oh, Mariah's in there. Like, I'm like, what level of rich and wealthy do you have to be to have other celebrities like renting out your island and like your rooms in your mansion, and just to get away from it all? I'm like, that's when I realized there was levels to this, you know?
Right. Yeah.
For you guys, like for those of you that want to be famous to whatever degree, is there any guilt that comes with that as like a Muslim? Do you feel like that's kind of like self-absorbed?
Good question. I want to say I think there should be, because you know guilt is a reflection of a sound heart. But you don't ever get to a certain level and make a certain amount of money and fame without stepping on a lot of throats and a lot of people. And I feel like that's one thing like I'm always trying to be cognizant of, you know? Like there's a difference between like, you know, hustling and like making something of yourself, but you don't ever get to like Jeff Bezos status, right? Like Richard Branson status without shutting other people down, shutting other ideas down, you know, blocking out other people, like, you know, making sure that they aren't able to get the lift off or getting the same opportunity that you had. So you don't lose access to that wealth, access to that opportunity and whatnot. So
now I'm not disagreeing with you, but we did say early on in the show that like there are people who use their fame for like really good things, you know? So if you start off your intentions with like, yeah, I'm going to get super famous, there's no need for me to feel guilty about it necessarily, because I really want to use this fame for something positive. I mean, I think that's a possibility as well.
I feel like that could be like a scapegoat too, though. Like, it's like we want fame to say like, oh, if I have this certain level of money, like I'll help more people. It's like you can do that with any amount of money.
So that's
The
fair.
time that
Like,
you have
yeah.
now.
So,
And
so
I
that's
don't know,
what
just for me, I know that there's an aspect of me that wants to be famous because, yeah, of course I want to help people. But there's also, like I said, the perks of being famous. And it's like you want to experience that. Sometimes it makes me sad.
Sure.
Like, what makes me think I'm better than the millions of people who will struggle forever? Like, what makes me think I need to be on a private jet and like have access to all these like exclusive things that this life has to offer? Like, I don't know. I guess that's just the thing I struggle with when I think about it.
So yeah, because fame and money aren't like mutually exclusive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of famous people that are broke as hell. Like,
I mean, but they could always use that fame, especially these days, to attain the wealth. All about the face card these days. And we know it. People literally become famous off of like Instagram and YouTube. It just like opens doors for you and creates opportunities based off of your clout or whatever you want to call it. Like,
yeah, but you still have to be able to use that. You still have to be able to leverage that. You know,
I mean, yeah.
So I mean, like Greta Thunberg, like her. I don't think her. Greta, you know, the girl who's protesting for climate change.
Oh yeah, the little girl.
Yeah, exactly. Like her whole like campaign is like based around her kind of getting famous, right? She needed to get famous for her campaign to launch somewhere.
And then back to what Nurideen said, too, like even with her, she gets death threats all the time, and she's like,
oh yeah, she's like
perks and works.
And she's getting death threats. It's crazy.
Perks and works.
Like she needed to be famous. You know what I mean? If she didn't get famous, her campaign wouldn't have gone anywhere.
That's reasonable. That is reasonable. But again, you go back to that perks and that works. And I don't know. I've seen the, you see the cause. If you watch enough unsung, TV One unsung joints or enough biopics, you kind of see the cause. And I don't know.
Yeah. I
don't know how I would handle that.
Yeah.
Because you can lose a lot. And it's a question of, and I hear people say, people always say, or I've heard people say, especially people who are successful, people say other people aren't successful because they're afraid of what they'd have to lose to become successful. Now, mind you, I don't think, Allah determines what success is. So I don't think what they're talking about of success is what I would consider success necessarily. Those don't have to be the same thing. But to a point, I understand the fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand I understand the hesitancy. I understand the, just the unwillingness to push myself but so far. Like, you know what I mean? Some of these stories are grotesque. Like, they aren't even like, okay, I can handle that. It's like eating dog shit out of bowls and dog crap out of bowls, and like some of this stuff is wild. Like, okay, think about it in the terms of like the 80s and young Hollywood kids and all the stories that now come out about these kids being raped, right? And their parents allowing it so that they could become, like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, right? Apparently they were raped, right? And a lot of these kids never come back from this. The Disney kids, all these Disney kids, oh my God.
The trauma, yeah.
Oh, there's a sense, that's a good way to put it. There is a sense of trauma that kind of comes with this to some degree. And to Zainab's point, you definitely, it really depends on like your character. But at the same time, like, so for example, right, your character could be great, but what about your kid? Right? I was listening to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has a podcast, which is wild in itself, right?
Oh my God.
The fact that Mike Tyson has a podcast. But he's sitting there with Eminem, right? And he's talking to Em, and he's like, how did your daughter's grown now, right? She's traversed the whole thing. How did you get her to the point to where she's like this? Because most of the people that we know that, that get to our level, their kids are basket cases.
Yeah.
Right? I don't take that lightly. Right? The two of them, two people on the level that we think we want to be, or some modicum of it, are both saying that when you reach this level, your kids become basket cases. That's when, to me, it becomes selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, what would you be willing to give? Are you willing to give up your own family?
Yeah.
For, right? Are you, because it might come a time where it's between you and your brother, right? There are enough stories of it. Right? Families who are fighting over, your last dime because you passed away, and now they're fighting over something that they have no real control over anyway, right? And they're never talking to each other again because, I don't know, you had an inheritance or whatever, and I don't know, So that's the interesting thing. Like, is it? Because when you talk about those aspects, then you have to wonder if it's just, if it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
or are you
that's
just being selfish?
Right.
I was gonna say, when you listen to like some Islamic lectures, a lot of them will use like famous people as an example, and they'll say like, these people, they're so famous, they have like everything at their disposal, yet they're the most unhappy people. They all like use drugs and they drink alcohol and they like commit suicide, and it's just like, it really kind of like deters you from wanting the fame, because it's like, oh, there's a price that you'll pay. Like, you have access to all these things, but at the same time you'll be like miserable. Like, on the outside, to people, it'll appear that you have everything, when really like the things that you need most, like peace and like a sense of self, like all of those things are robbed from you. So it's kind of like a switch off, I guess. I don't know.
That perks and that works. The trade-off is a mother.
But with that said, I don't think that's everyone's case.
No. So I'm not saying that is everyone's case. I'm just saying that, are you willing to test it?
Yeah. And I'm sure that's exactly what Lil Nas X thought when he released
it. But then something too. I feel like you might want to become famous, but that's not really up to you.
No. So
you might try your hardest, and you'll be trying forever, and you still won't reach that like pinnacle or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is 100%. I mean, obviously, it's all up to Allah to begin with, but we were talking about this last week when we were talking about timelessness, or I think it was like 2 weeks ago or something like that. But yeah, it's not something you get to really determine for yourself, but it is something that you can go after. A lot of people do some strange things for some change, for some fame. If you feels your boy, yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially with Instagram out now, like Instagram and TikTok, like,
and YouTube,
people be wilding on these joints just to, and sometimes you find yourself like, should I join in on that one, right? Like
compromise.
Yeah, like you slowly but surely.
The crazier the thing is, or like the more absurd and just like mind blowing, it's like those are the things that catch on the most. It's like that if it has like more shock value, you'll become more famous from
Y'all
that.
know that girl who got famous for like eating or whatever her own like tampon, and then she like she tweeted like at Ariana Grande, and like she was like, I don't know why Ariana Grande is famous and yada yada. She went viral because she did that, and then here's the thing. Ariana responded to her, right, which in turn kind of gave her more legitimacy. But she responded to her in the first place because that girl was gaining clout, right? And Ariana Grande responded and was like, and when she tweeted at her and was like, I don't know why Ariana Grande is famous, like she has no talent or whatever. And Ariana Grande wrote back, well, not for eating my own damn tampon, that's for sure. And I was just like, oh,
what?
Yeah, man, it was for the clout. Like people will do anything for the clout.
What in the what?
That's rough.
That's
No, you don't need to know anything else about it. That's the highlight of it.
Yeah.
that ain't no highlight. That's a low light. That is a as low as a light
Social
can
media
get.
plays a big part in this deception. Like, I feel like people think, oh, all they see is like the highlights of what fame will bring you, but people on social media don't necessarily like share their low points in their life, like the struggle of, you know, what it takes to be like an entertainer or a musician or whatever the case may be, just a famous person. I feel like that's why people would literally do anything to reach that level, because all they see is like the glory of it, and they don't see like
Glory,
the guts.
glory.
So I don't know.
All right, summary, guys. Would you guys choose to be super level famous? Go.
Like Justin Bieber famous?
Yeah.
No.
One vote for no?
Yeah.
No man.
So on brand.
Right, he's just dead on. No man copes with fame.
I agree with you guys. No way. I don't even. I want like half the people who already know my name to like forget my name.